Hello, I'm Adrian, and in today's highly requested episode, we're taking an in-depth look at the Green Arrow's fighting style and CW's Arrow. Oliver Queen, or the Green Arrow, has sworn to protect his city by any means necessary. In the first season, this meant murder was on the table, when he was known as a masked vigilante, the Hood, while in the latter seasons, he tries to keep the casualty count to a bare minimum as he becomes the heroic Green Arrow. In case you haven't seen the show and want to, I will keep the context of the fight spoiler-free and reveal as little of the plot as possible. Without further ado, let's find out how many fighting styles the Green Arrow knows in CW's Arrow. You can't even begin to break down Arrow's fighting style without mentioning his very namesake, the bow and arrow. He has turned this projectile weapon into a Swiss Army knife of functionality, not only using it to obviously attack his enemies with arrows, but also as a frequent melee striking weapon, and even as a contraption to fire special withholding ropes, and as a sort of Batman-style grappling hook to get in or out of situations. As such, as Captain America did with discus throw, and Spider-Man did with gymnastics, Green Arrow has turned archery into a full-on fighting style. As noted by stunt coordinator James Bamford, Stephen Amell didn't have a lot of time to learn sophisticated martial arts techniques that involved kicking in the earlier seasons, so he built the basis of Arrow's fighting style on Kali, or Eskrima, which has plenty of handwork. Kali is a Filipino martial art that emphasizes weapon-based fighting with sticks, blades, and various other weapons. In the case of Arrow, at various points in the show you can see him training with two small batons, each one known as a baston in Kali. They are useful for extending your reach in order to better strike your opponent and are great for blocking. Kali also has a very strong foundation in knives, which is easily seen during this fight. Kali can also be used empty-handed, which literally means Kali without weapons, and that is also readily seen in several of the hand-to-hand exchanges in the show. Remember this wooden structure from Ip Man, the Mukyanjong? The fact that it's right there and frequently present in Arrow means that he's also very well versed in Wing Chun Kung Fu. Besides frequently training in it, he also demonstrates various other elements from this martial art, most notably the art of trapping. Notice how he curls his fingers around the blocked hit and holds it as he begins to counterattack? That act of momentarily immobilizing an opponent's limbs to give you a brief opportunity to strike while he cannot is called trapping. Wing Chun also specializes in a wide variety of weapons, some of which are seen on this show. For example, in his initial fight with Al Ghul, he's skilled with the sword, but we will revisit this sword fighting in just a bit. At one point, he also picks up a bow staff and readily uses it without any problems. What's pretty neat as well is that he combines the concept of trapping and his predisposition for using his bow as a striking weapon very frequently. Returning to the sword fight, later on Arrow is once again seen using the sword with much greater skill because he has been under the tutelage of Al Ghul. According to the comics, Ra's al Ghul knows an insane amount of martial arts, just like Batman. Considering that Ra's didn't have a huge amount of time to train with Arrow, and the fact that a grand majority of the tactics of the League of Assassins are based on ninjutsu, we can go ahead and assume that Arrow became very well trained in the sword techniques of Kenjutsu, an umbrella martial art that forms part of the 18 disciplines that comprise ninjutsu. Taking into account Arrow's time spent in Russia with the Bratva, it comes as no surprise that he picked up on some Russian martial arts. The first one is basically the Russian version of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, known as Sambo in English-speaking countries, but as Sambo in Russia. Sambo is a modern martial art that was intended to be a merger of the most effective techniques from other martial arts. There are even sub-styles including sport, combat, and freestyle Sambo, but they do share a strong emphasis in grappling techniques including throwing, groundwork, and submissions. In Oliver's case, he readily shows several techniques in the martial art and is constantly either flipping his enemies, pinning them into submissions, getting out of them, and readily demonstrates the concepts seen in this martial art. The second Russian martial art Arrow shows proficiency in is Sistema. Training includes a wide variety of elements including hand-to-hand combat, grappling, knife fighting, and firearms training. It focuses on controlling the 6 body levers through pressure points. He demonstrates this skill during his training montages with Slade, as well as a few of the confrontations he has in the island. Sistema has a very strong emphasis on military applications and disarms, one of which can even be seen right here as he quickly disarms this man and exploits one of the pressure points, the wrist. Oliver frequently employs tried and true judo flips at several points in the show as well, adding yet another fighting style to his repertoire. But the Green Arrow, like many of the other heroes on Fight Scene Breakdown, knows that sometimes you just need more striking power than your arms, and that's when you rely on kicking. Kicking is an element of several martial arts, but without a doubt the martial art which primarily focuses on kicking is the Korean martial art Taekwondo. At several points, Oliver demonstrates techniques from this martial art, including the side kick, the roundhouse, the spinning hook kick, the push kick, the jump spin hook kick, and even the tornado kick. Kicks are incredibly useful for keeping enemies at bay, as well as putting one out of commission immediately if a critical shot is landed. However, when you are kicking, you're risking yourself and being counterattacked in several ways as you are holding up your entire body on one leg, a fact that can easily be exploited by a well-trained martial artist like the Green Arrow. In his case, he routinely counters kicks with techniques seen in Hapkido. Hapkido is a very eclectic Korean martial art that shares many similarities to Taekwondo, but has techniques from other martial arts including joint locks and throws to make it a more well-rounded fighting style. It's very useful in countering kicks as it builds off a martial art that is mostly based on kicking, Taekwondo. Continuing this exploration of kicks, Oliver actually employs kicking techniques from capoeira. Capoeira is a Brazilian martial art that actually has a background in dance, but it's deadly because it uses one's whole body as a pendulum. For example, where in Taekwondo for the roundhouse you lift your leg and snap it as you guys have seen before, in capoeira you actually swing your entire body to deliver the kick and help yourself out by using a hand to stabilize yourself on the floor, and it's called a martelo de negativa. Having seen that, look at how Oliver thrusts his whole body behind his kick and uses his hand to stabilize himself. What's also a telltale sign of his capoeira knowledge is how he throws a couple of his spinning hook kicks. Notice how he places his hand on the floor as opposed to keeping it off the ground? That's a direct technique from capoeira called mea luge com paso. Arrow is also a fan of using good old professional wrestling techniques, from the ever dependable drop kick to even more incredible moves where he uses his entire body to flip someone over. Oliver Queen also demonstrates several elements from the martial art Silat. Silat was developed with the philosophy in mind of you killing the enemy before they kill you. Obviously that means that a grand majority of their techniques are very quick and very violent. Believe it or not, there are also over 100 variations of it, but each one emphasizes pinpoint strikes and vicious takedowns. For example, you can see this precision when Oliver decides to strike the heels or the knees. There's even a really great reference to The Raid, an Indonesian film filled with Silat, and if you want to be really specific, Pencak Silat, during Arrow's extensive hallway sequence. Here Arrow smacks the thug's head in very much the same manner Rama does during The Raid. He is also a fan of using very low roundhouses, something not limited to Silat, but has been associated with it along with the next martial art on the list, Muay Thai. Muay Thai is a martial art which favors brutal close quarters techniques. Elbows and knees are absolutely critical to Muay Thai, and they are part of what is known as the art of 8 limbs, since you also use them in your fighting arsenal besides your traditional punches and kicks. Elbows and knees are best suited for close quarters attacks as you don't need to extend your whole arm or leg. Throughout the series, Green Arrow uses several elbows and knees on his enemies, and usually to great effect. So in conclusion, how many fighting styles does Green Arrow know? They are archery, kali, kenjutsu, wing chun, sambo, sistema, judo, taekwondo, hapkido, capoeira, professional wrestling, silat, and Muay Thai. Which brings us to the grand total of 13 fighting styles. What other character would you like to see me break down in terms of his fighting style? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe, and you can follow me on my Twitter, Instagram, and brand new Facebook fan page, Godzilla Rex, to be notified when another new episode premieres. It would also be great if you could join my Patreon to get access to cool behind the scenes stuff and a bunch of other rewards. See you next time.